Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the MTG Paper Legacy Discord's Legacy Fight Night on Tuesdays. I'm PresBOTW back here for round two, joined here by my new co-host Oliver V. How's it going today?
I am so happy to be here today. It was a hard day across the board, but now I get to sit here and watch some players play Legacy. I don't know how it could have ended any better.
Oh man, I wish.
So,
Sounds really good though for sure. And man, we got a spicy one for round two. Oh my goodness.
well, I am incredibly happy I'm sitting here in the booth with you because you actually have some experience with both these decks, where I'm sitting here just theory crafting, trying to look at these sideboard plans. So I'm happy that
Yeah.
I have you to defer to on every single one of these opinions.
Yes, no. So for people who don't know, specifically red white painter strawberry shortcake is has been my pet deck for 8 years now. And then I've been playing high tide on and off every so often. And so I just rebuilt high tide probably last month, and I've been piloting it for I took it through our league last month. Didn't do too hot, but it was still very fun. Yeah, and not only that, Bit's got some spicy tech in this deck here today.
All right, the first thing I have to ask is a mainboard worm coil engine a normal thing for blue red painter? Because that's the coolest thing, hands down. Emery
So
makes sense. That's really spicy also, but that mainboard worm coil engine, if we don't see that in play at some point, I will be a little disappointed.
yeah, and yes, also Mr. Jagodex, thank you for pointing that out. Borachan, thank you very much for the follow. We appreciate it. But yeah, no. So the reason that worm coil engine is in there is because Goblin Welder's a card. Goblin Welder is very good. Emery mills over the cards a lot. Engineer allows you to tutor up something, put it in the graveyard. There's a lot of reasons for it there, and so we've been, or I actually helped MB kind of help fine tune this list again with my limited experience because I don't play blue painter very often. I play a lot of red painter, but yeah, the worm coil engine I find is the best of the weldable threats if you're not focusing specifically on a welder centric build. Like
I
the
guess you can just loop it, right? So you're just making
yeah,
basically endless 3/3s and continually chaining to 6/6. That's pretty fantastic. Of note, MB also going to be on the play here.
yeah. The other reason why as well is because you get big things like giant artifact creatures, Sundering Titan being a primary one, or Mere Battlesphere. The other thing too is that Ancient Tomb and City Traders actually allow you to feasibly cast Worm Coil Engine, which is another reason why it's kind of the big fatty of choice if you're only going to run one of them.
Who needs Tron lands to cast Worm Coil Engine when you can just have Ancient Tomb of Obsidian Traders, right?
Oh
Same
yeah,
thing. 3 lands gets to cast it. Seems fine by me.
yeah. Not only that, but the six life gain you get from the life linking worm coil engine helps a lot to help mitigate that ancient doom. So,
I
which is
I
really good.
I am sad we're going to see a matchup where that Worm Coil Engine isn't going to be most likely that. I mean, it's probably not going to come up, but I can hope. A man can
Oh,
dream.
that's unfortunate to hear, Doc. But yeah, no, it's that worm coil engine. I don't think is going to be too big of a thing. But that being said, if we get an early worm coil engine, man, that could be a super fast clock coming down, which could be very powerful. But on the high tide side, we also have some spice there too. We got four main deck copies of Spellseeker. Of note as well, there are also four copies of Sapphire Medallion, which
Oh,
is
that's spicy.
super cool.
Is pour over the pages a typical thing? I know that that has seen some play in Pioneer of late, right? Like when there was the whole breach deck, the Lotus breach. But is pour
Yes.
over the pages, is that really a normal high tide tech? MB keeping
Not
7?
normally. I know that when I've played high tide, typically I've always gone with turnabout. Um, Running the full 12 cantrips of 4 brainstorm, 4 ponder, 4 preordain, and then um uh using turnabout as the land untapper. Whereas in this case, it looks like we're using pour over the pages on top of some other stuff, but I'm sure this is going to work out just fine. But players are off to the races here. MB starting off with a volcanic island into a grindstone, so the jig is up immediately.
We know what this is.
Yeah. And of note too, because that we are seeing a red source in a painter deck, if Bidum knows what's going on, Bidum should be expecting some pyroblasts.
That is
Which,
gonna be a major part of this
to be
matchup this game.
fair, pyroblast is incredibly good against a mono blue deck.
Oh, definitely. I do love this mission briefing in the list as well, I gotta say.
Yeah. So we're gonna get a Lion's Eye Diamond from MB here right away, and then it looks like just a pass. Interesting. And a turn fetch. So we're gonna go a bit down to 19 here.
Also of note, this fetch land for Mystic Sanctuary tech for late game value in this high tide list is pretty cool as well.
That's super sweet. My only concern about that is that if you're planning on comboing off on turn 3 or turn 4, you have to keep in mind that if you leave that fetch land uncracked, it is a land that does not provide you any value when you high tide. That's the only concern. The Mystic Sanctuary
That's
will
true.
give you multiple mana because it does count as an island through high tide. However, it will never give you the extra card back unless it is your fourth island, which can mean you basically have to wait until turn 4 to get any value of it. You cannot combo on turn 3.
Are we seeing a missed land drop from MB?
Yes, we did miss a
Yeah.
land drop there. So that is unfortunate there. Um Of note here as well, this is a main phase. Oh no, no, this is. Oh wow, we actually passed back, and then this is an end of turn brainstorm.
Yep.
Wow, that's actually two land drops in a row that MB has missed then, because MB played the LED missile land drop last turn, and this was just draw go.
One would have to assume if MB kept this hand, that is incredibly likely that he has access to
I would imagine that he
the
has the
painter.
combo handy.
Yeah.
Which, if that's the case, I would be extremely worried if I was bit because with that lion's eye diamond, it means that as soon as the second land comes down, um, you can name painter and then crack the LED to activate the grindstone. Not only that as well, but because MB is a blue painter deck, MB has access to force of will, which could
Re-
be very relevant here.
Really interestingly, on the other side, though, it isn't just force of will that Bit can be using for points of interaction as well. These snaps, these three snaps, are actually relevant if we're trying to go with the combo route.
Yeah. So we're gonna cast an Emery here, and we're gonna get a
Do
brainstorm in
brainstorm.
response. Drawing 3 cards, having the fetch land to shuffle all this stuff away.
Just sculpting our hand here, trying to set up for our combo turn.
Yeah.
So here's a question. Is it more common for high tide to be comboing off on later turns like turn 4, or is the turn 3 really what we're aiming for?
So turn 3 I think is early. Turn 4 I've found is the sweet spot.
Okay.
Anything like the longer you wait, the easier it is to go off because the less high tides you need in order to make it go. On 3 lands with 1 high tide, you can only make 6 mana, which is enough to time spiral once.
Emery resolve, and
Um
we see the flips.
yeah. Ooh, that second LED is really nice actually in terms of being able to just cast it again.
That still doesn't allow us to actually pay or play painter and go off on the following turn, however, right?
No.
We're still just digging for that land drop.
Yeah. So we're gonna get fetch for island number 3. So now this is turn 4 for bit. So I would imagine that we're gonna try and start going off here if bit's hand is any kind of decent. And also for anyone who is unfamiliar with high tide or has never seen the deck go before, this is the absolute longest to play storm deck there is. Like we're talking storm count in the 30s average.
Yeah, we might be sitting here talking for a bit if we're actually going to see the combo happening.
Yeah.
Seeing
I
the high
know
tide.
in Yeah, I know in my personal high tide deck, I am a huge fan of Aetherflux Reservoir because it gives a very deterministic kill.
As
But
somebody who has been stormed out from you playing that deck, I appreciate it as your opponent as well.
yeah. So as far as unmatched islands go, actually hilariously, of the three Urza Saga islands, two of them are the same art, one of them is mismatched.
Seeing a cracked Lion's Eye Diamond, just discarding the hand.
Interesting. I am super confused by this.
I really like Bit going off on this turn just because we know that the Volk is tapped. So even though we know that there's going to be a lot of Pyroblasts in this list, I mean, it's just down. We like MB had to deploy the Emery there.
Yeah, it looks like MB just rewound there after not discarding the hand after showing it off, I
Oh,
guess.
okay.
I'm not sure. So Bit's gonna just need to remember here that that high tide needs to shuffle back into the deck if he time spirals.
Major thanks to our lovely table spotter Astrid, who we will be able to
Yes.
use if that does not happen.
Yeah.
So 2 mana in the pool.
Yeah. So yeah, for those who have no idea how high tide works, uh until end of turn, each island you tap produces an addition each island any player taps produces an additional blue mana. So we're here on high tide number 2. So now these islands are tapping for 3. So we got one in pool, so now 3 more, we're up to 4 blue in pool, right? So we're going to snap the Emery back to hand. This is cool. So this is part of the way that the lands are getting untapped. So now
Yeah, with
you can
access to
float
11 mana.
9 here. Functionally 11 mana, yes.
I mean, who needs Black Lotuses when you can just have your islands be tapping for 3 mana, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we're up to 11 now. And we're going to time spiral.
Here we go.
So if I was in MB's position here, I actually would crack the LED right now if I wasn't going to counter this.
Yeah, just so you have the mana floating. So
Yeah,
if MB draws back into additional spell pierces, or actually, do you go blue or red here? I want to look at this list for a second. Are there
I
more
like
spell
red here.
pierces?
I like red here just because it means you can pyroblast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yep, there's
discarding
just
the
a
cards
single spell
now.
pierce that's in hand right now.
Yeah.
So it has to be for red. Okay.
Well, even then, in order LED is templated bizarrely, so you have to discard your hand before you get the mana. Okay, so MB actually chose blue there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I guess it means that if a brainstorm is drawn, the brainstorm can be used to dig for one of the force of wills.
Yes, that is
Additionally, I
true.
guess the mana can be spent for a thirst for knowledge, also digging.
Yeah. Of note as well, MB's mana pool is not going to empty for basically the remainder of this combo because that of the way High Tide works.
Oh yeah,
Bit would basically have to untap all of his lands, move to combat, empty both of their mana pools, and then would be able to go off. So and then yeah, you see Time Spiral exiling itself, shuffling up, taking 7 cards, and then Bit will be able to untap up to 6 lands, including MB's land if he's feeling so generous, but I highly doubt that will be the case.
I would really love to see a blue Sun Zenith kill.
So the Bliss and Zenith kill is a possibility. It looks like there's a main deck brain freeze though.
There's an additional one on the side also, so that Cunning Wish, if it happens, there's going to be a decision point no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're
All
just
right.
asking for the on-screen cut there just to make sure. Yeah, so it looks like the deck was cut off screen, so we're just making sure that the cards go put back down. So it was I don't know if he got to see the cards, but yeah, so Cosmic the Emery got snapped back to hand.
And so of note, Storm count is 4 at the moment, correct? High Tide, Snap, and the Time Spiral.
Yes.
Okay.
Storm is at 4, which
Oh,
is
we're getting there.
relevant for
We're
Brain
building.
Freeze. Yeah. So we're gonna float up to 8. This is a pour over the pages. So this is gonna be good here. However, Bit's gonna definitely want to float another island here in response. Otherwise, you're gonna lose out on the value of the untapping the lands.
It happens here. I mean, it looks
So
like it is past priority, correct?
Could be, yeah, and that's just it. Is MB might be thinking over whether to counter this or not. And I think going down to 3 mana in pool, it is a possibility, but at the same time, you can still get 7 more. So we're gonna draw 3 cards, untap up to 2 lands, which is only tapping 1. Or is it, or do you only get to untap 1 land?
No, you get to untap 2 for Pour Over the Pages.
Okay, so it just missed some mana there.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. And discard a card. And also of note, Bit should only have 3 mana remaining in pool, not 8.
It's very true.
So we're casting another High Tide here. And then, which I like the High Tide now. Um, yeah, so we're down to 2 mana in pool now. So the reason why you
Perfect.
do this is you want to cast High Tide with your floating mana. You never want to tap an island to cast the High Tide.
Seeing an intuition with that mana that's been floating.
I don't mind this. However, the problem is there's so much counter magic in
Flusterstorm.
High Tide. Like, and this is the reason why you see so many main deck Flusterstorms in High Tide, is because of the fact that it combos off and the High Tides or the Flusterstorms are always so much. Because that was a High Tide for like 6 mana you have to pay there. So now MB's mana pool is empty.
And MB has added to the storm count as well. So this
Yes.
is this the fourth high tide? Or the
This is
fourth
the
high tide
fourth
this
High
turn?
Tide.
So this is
Yeah.
storm count 8 now by my count?
Yes, this is Storm 8.
I
Oof.
mean, we're chugging along.
Yeah,
5
and
mana
we're
for
gonna
every
need
single island.
Storm Count. We're gonna need roughly Storm Count 18 in order to Brain Freeze for lethal. Here's a
Venus
Ponder.
Ponder.
Yeah, Storm 9. Okay, so that's what the blue dice or the yellow dice is on the top.
I have to say, watching High Tide go off is kind of like being, at least for me, a little kid at the dinner table at a dinner party where all the adults are talking. Where I'm just like, I think I understand, but I'm missing a lot of things. I'll be
Yeah.
totally honest.
So the reason why I really like Turnabout here is because you can just go float 20 mana, untap all my lands. Like that's part of the reason why I really like Turnabout.
Yeah, Doc, the mana is essentially infinite at this point. Close
Yeah.
enough.
However, that's the only problem with High Tide is that kill is very non-deterministic, so you have to go. I have fizzled High Tide before by literally time spiraling and drawing nothing but counter spells and lands. That's all I drew, and I just had to sit there and take it.
Just got to get better.
Yep. Yeah. Better better lucky than good. Cantripping away. So we're gonna brainstorm. So this is another thing too, is that so we're gonna draw 3 cards and then put 2 cards from hand back. And this is part of the other reason too why shuffle effects are really good. So I like using Merchant Scroll, Ponder, and Intuition to shuffle here. But again, a lot of the cards I have in my build of this deck are different from this one. Whereas that we got Spellseeker, Sapphire Medallion, Pour Over the Pages,
I
Mission
believe
Briefing.
there's no main board intuitions in this list either, which is
There's
rather
none.
interesting. There's only the one in the board to be able to wish for. Can I
Yeah,
also say I have mad appreciation for a sideboard that is 15 distinct cards, all one ofs.
yeah. Actually, every single card in this sideboard, every single one of them is a wishboard target.
Oh yes,
Every
the
single
choices.
one is an instant.
Seeing this,
So, on the
the
bright
sapphire
side,
come
that makes
down.
sideboarding super easy. None of it comes in. Oh, so we do actually have one copy of Turnabout in the sideboard. One copy of Turnabout in the sideboard.
I
So we're
suppose
gonna
you
see
can't put
that.
the additional pour over pages in there, can you? That cannot be wished for.
No. So we're gonna see the Sapphire Medallion now. So we're gonna go up to 5 blue mana here from tapping one of the lands. So we're gonna Cunning Wish right away and then go and get a spell here. Based
Storm
on what
12 from this
we've
cunning wish.
seen, yeah, Storm 12 for the Cunning Wish. I I'm not entirely sure what I would grab here. This is kind of hard because um
Let's see, it could be
mm,
intuition to just go and get time spirals and try to keep chaining things.
I actually don't mind that. That is true because you could just go intuition and then just go get triple time spiral. I actually like that a lot.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. I suppose if Bit is really thinking that they can generate enough mana, or if they had the other wish, they could go and just get Blue Sun Zenith. Maybe not yet, though. If they have the two wishes, they could perhaps do
Yeah,
Turnabout into Wish again for Blue Sun Zenith.
yeah. Actually, if Bit has another
Gets Brain
brain
Freeze.
freeze in hand, then this is just lethal
Oh, that's
because you can go
true.
brain freeze for this is brain freeze for 13, so this is gonna be 39 cards here. And then if he brain freezes again,
Of note, it doesn't need to just be the Brain Freeze, right? Because it could be either the two Merchant Scrolls or also the Mission Briefing.
that's
So there's
true.
three potential main board cards that would just mean this is lethal, correct?
Yeah. Well, 4 because you got the second copy of Brain Freeze, any of the mission
Oh,
briefing, and the 2 copies of Merchant Scroll.
there we go.
Yeah.
That's a lot of cards being flipped over.
That is gonna be a lot of cards. Yeah. So
I'll
we're
be
gonna
honest,
keep
I've
going
lost
here.
track of numbers at this point. I'm not even trying to count anymore.
Yeah. I'm sure MB's got this all figured out in terms of counting, but yeah, there's gonna be 39 cards flipped over here. So there's not much left in the library, so MB's just gonna show what's been milled over.
One of the forces gone, two of
One,
the forces.
two, Pyroblast. The second Pyroblast. So two Pyroblasts and two
And two
forces. So that
forces.
means that there's still two forces left.
Okay.
However, I do believe okay, there's one copy of Pyroblast left, but even then, MB doesn't have any red mana anyway. Yeah, but Doc, you don't get on stream to play to your outs. You get on stream to go big or go home.
You have to entertain the masses, you know what I mean? You let the combos
Exactly.
go all the way through.
Yeah, and then here's the second brain freeze. So
There we
this is
go.
just immediately lethal. Oof. So yeah,
Great
that
Rube
that's
Goldberg
kind of
machine.
how High Tide goes. But
So we've
yeah, not bad.
established that we don't need to worry about sideboarding on the high tide side, right? Looking
Uh,
at this list,
I
we have
wouldn't.
looking at this, we have an entire wish board set up. The Archmage's Charm, a single blue Sun Zenith, Brain Freeze, Echoing Truth, Engulf the Shore, Flusterstorm, Force of Negation, Hercule's Recall, Intuition, Pact of Negation, Psionic Blast, an oldie but a goodie, Snap,
Yeah.
Surgical Extraction, Turnabout, and Wipe Away. You're thinking none of these cards come in, they just stay into the wish
Actually,
board?
actually, Force of Negation comes in. I think.
Okay.
Largely because this painter is a combo deck. And so the reason why you don't play Force of Negation in High Tide or specifically Spiral Tide normally is because that in Spiral Tide, you're always going off on your turn, which means you can never alt cast Force of Negation. In this particular matchup where you're playing against Goblin Welders and you have all these artifact cards that could potentially be welded back in or casting them again with Emery, I really like Force of Negation for its exile effect. And it's also good to try and potentially help slow down during the other turns. And then if you do have High Tide going off later on, you can actually just pay the 3 mana to cast it when you have 800 in pool.
That's a very good point. So what do you think the one is that comes out? Is it Pour Over the Pages just because that's the card that can be
I'd
countered
cut
most by
Snap myself
Pyroblast?
personally. I'd
Snap?
cut
Okay.
Snap.
Makes
Largely
sense.
because that if you're planning on going off early, I think that the Snap is just not as good. But at the same time, Snap doesn't tap your lands. Maybe Flusterstorm could be. I'm not entirely sure. But
Interesting. I would think that you would want to keep in Flusterstorm against any Force of Will deck when you're time spiraling. But once again, this is in a very amateur view. Um,
yeah,
let's go on over to MB's side, where we have a single Abrade, two Blood Moons, one Engineered Explosives, one Ensnaring Bridge, two Flusterstorm, one Grindstone, one Lion's Eye Diamond, one Liquid Metal Coating, one Mycosynth Lattice, one Painter's Service, Painter's Servant, one Pithing Needle, and two Surgical Extractions. So MB rocking that Karn board, right? We do have that Wish
Yeah,
package as well. It seems to me, in my layman view, would be the Flusterstorms that would be coming in. Is there a possibility that we see some Surgical Extractions coming in as well?
absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. The reason why I say that is because that, say, for example, you have a high tide in the graveyard, and then they spend all their resources going to Time Spiral. Well, what you can do is, in response to the Time Spiral, exile all the high tides. And then if you do that, then they kind of are like, oh, I just spent all of my gas trying to get this Time Spiral out, and now I get to untap my lands, but I have no way to continue going.
Yeah. Or just a Pyroblast landing on a key card, like once again, the first High Tide or the Time Spiral.
Yes.
Being able to Surgical that feels pretty great as well. So, what do you think is going to be coming out for these four cards?
Um, what I would probably be cutting is I would actually probably be cutting. Um, I'd probably be. It's kind of hard in this case.
Wormcoil?
Your deck is slow. I'd probably cut the worm coil here. It's just too slow straight up because you're gonna need to try and combo right as fast as you can. Um, intuition seems pretty good. I almost think thirst for knowledge could be.
Maybe shave on
Karn might
Karns as well. Karns are
actually
a little
Karn would
slow.
be good to cut as well, just because that there are no artifacts as far as MB knows. Like there's no candelabras here, right? So you're not worried about turning those cards off.
Both
But
players keep
anyway,
7.
yep,
MB is on the
we're
play.
and we get a
Doom into
painter
Painter
servant.
Servant. Already more mana on MB's side of the table than there was last time.
Yeah. So in this case, I actually don't like naming blue personally.
Because it turns on their Force of Wills.
It turns on their force of wills where they can pitch lands, right? And it all the cards that you care about are pyroblastable anyway.
Yep. It looks like blue was chosen as well.
Blue was the name, yes. But yeah, I personally against High Tide, I'm not the biggest fan of that name, largely because that the only cards that it allows you to actually hit with Pyroblast are lands, which could be very good. If MB manages to fetch and then Pyroblast is island right now, that could actually be super good.
Oh, that's a good point. See, this is the reason I can never play against Painter because I always forget these little interactions that are actually incredibly relevant. Like my lands, all of a sudden, they can be destroyed by a Pyroblast.
Yeah. So we're gonna see
See.
Volk into what looks like a ponder? Yes,
Yep.
ponder. Which I don't mind this. So we're gonna see the top three cards.
If we see the grindstone, we just play it right away, correct?
Um I would excuse me, I would imagine so. Again, and this is a thing where if you probably could just go for the grindstone here and then threaten lethal, largely because Bit isn't probably playing any form of creature removal other than the snap. But even then, that's kind of something we just gotta deal with. But it looks like there is no grindstone coming down right away, so we're just gonna crunch for one and then pass back.
Keeps off the ponder. I love to see Painter
Yeah,
swinging. I'm not gonna lie. Let's go
yeah,
all the way with that.
yeah. Nathan0777, thank you very much for the follow. Yeah, and I've been on the giving end of a painter beatdown a lot. It's a very slow, painful death. Lemon MB is at 17. MB's life total is at the top. So
See the Sapphire and pass.
yeah. The Jazz Jeff, thank you as well for the follow. Much appreciated. Hopefully all you are here enjoying watching some Paper Legacy. It's rare sight these days, but here on the MTG Paper Legacy Discord, this is all we do all day, every day, and it's a good time. So definitely make sure to exclamation mark Discord in the chat there. Get a link to it and come hang out and play some games over webcam. It's a ton of fun. So we're gonna see second Painter Servant here. So I'm assuming here, Bit's probably just asking how the painter works. Oh, of note here too, with painter naming blue, if there were any non-blue spells in the deck, Sapphire Medallion makes all of them cheaper. like if there were
Oh,
artifacts.
it makes future medallions cheaper, doesn't it?
It
Oh,
does
that's
make
very
future
cool.
medallions cheaper too. That's
That's
actually
great.
really bad. That's super bad if you're MB.
Oh, I don't know. I love that. That seems amazing.
Oh yeah.
Name's Blue with the second one as well. Painter beats.
Yep.
Oh, no, that clock is doubled now. There's 2 painters now.
There is. So there is no morphed enchantment. MB is using blue sleeves to indicate blue painter.
Seeing that fetch.
Yep. We're gonna fetch again.
Are we gonna see turn 3 combo here? I guess the Sapphire makes it far more reasonable to be able to go off on turn 3.
Potentially without turnabout, I still don't like going off on turn 3. It's a little bit too risky, largely because that, like in this particular scenario, you could go high tide and then snap, but even then, I still am not a huge fan of that. Oh, we're going. Never
Seeing the
mind.
high tide. Here we go. Time for that turn 3.
Yep.
This is what we came to see.
Storm one. Oh,
And
we're gonna get a force of will.
ooh, pitching that fetch land. Love
Yep.
this.
I like that as well. Force of will, fetching, pour over the pages.
Like
Okay.
it.
And we're
And
gonna
the
pyroblast
Pyroblast.
back. I like this a lot. Okay, so that gets countered, high tide gets countered, and that's I guess gonna probably do it for Bit,
Interesting. I would love
unless
to
he's
know how
got
many
something
cards are
else
in
to do
Bit's
here.
hand right now.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna play Spell Seeker now. So I almost guarantee you this is gonna go get a high tide to try again next turn.
Ooh, we see the Spell Seeker.
Yeah,
Mm,
Spell
mm.
Seeker for high
Spicy
tide.
deck.
Yeah, this is sweet. I don't run Spell Seekers in mine, but that's super cool. I really like that.
MB has a single card at this point, and
I
Bit with 2.
believe so.
Again, massive props to our
Ooh.
lovely table spotter, Astrid.
So we're gonna get a
Oh,
grindstone here. The shields are down. So if this grindstone resolves, this is instant death right here. Yeah. So
this
we're
is it.
gonna just
We're going to game
activate.
3.
I imagine this is activating the grindstone. Yeah, Bit just scoops it up. So this is the thing about multiple painters. Is multiple painters means you have to remove all of them because even one painter makes it lethal. So if you have 3 painters, you have to kill all 3 of them in order for the grindstone to not be lethal.
It's amazing. This is great.
Yep.
Little disappointed we didn't see the painters go all the way acting like Savannah Lions or combining together to become a Savannah Lion, but it's okay. We have another game to try this out. Do you think sideboarding changes at all when we go into this game 3? Is it different
I
when we
don't
have Bid on the play?
I don't think so. A braid just has no value because the spell seeker you could not care less about. It does its damage as soon as it enters the battlefield, so trying to kill it's pointless. Um, I'd actually just probably keep the deck configuration largely the same. However, I still like the surgicals and the flusterstorms, largely because the flusterstorms allow you to counter back.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I suppose the only thing is if MB for some reason didn't trim on those cards like we were kind of expecting, now he would be incredibly incentivized to do so, right? With being on the draw as well. It is it's a little it's a little unlikely that that card will come down in time to be truly relevant, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. And a Pentium, I think that's pretty cool. However, I do think with MB having the grindstone in hand, your top priority is just making sure that that high tide doesn't resolve. That's your top priority. Largely because that if you tap out as well, it allows you to basically just get a free reign to go off the following turn.
The other one thing about that line is at that point the prismatic vista was not really relevant anymore,
Yeah.
right?
The
While MB was pitching a card, it wasn't really pitching a relevant card anymore.
No. The other thing too is that if after Bit had forced back and only having 2 cards in hand, I actually really like hitting the force there because it means that if Bit forces back again, Bit has no other cards in hand to actually continue going off with.
And Bit taking the play like we expected. Let's see if we're going to see any
Uh
mulligans.
so Jazz, Bit is playing 4 copies of Spellkeeper and 2 copies of Merchant Scroll. So he's not playing Spellseeker over Scroll, he's playing both.
So many tutors.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's basically what you need to do, right? So I never thought about Spellseeker, but that's some pretty cool tech. I might have to look into that one. Some good stuff. Oh, DJ Jazz, I apologize. My bad.
It looks
Okay,
like
so okay, so
looks like
we're gonna
MB won.
mulligan there from MB. Okay.
Well, needless to say, this is not what we wanted at all. Of course, if
Yeah,
there's one of these two decks that is going to be able to get there through mulliganing a little bit, is
yeah,
going to be MB's deck.
yeah. And Lord Mikhail, for what sorcery does Spellseeker get you that you want over Merchant Scroll? It doesn't matter because Spellseeker allows you to grab an instant, which is exactly what you want. Because it allows you to grab High Tide, allows you to grab Ponder, Preordain, uh, you know, basically anything. It allows you to go grab Brain Freeze even. So because it allows you to grab instant, the card is very good in this deck. It basically does everything that Merchant Scroll does, except it can also grab sorceries if you want. But yeah, MB's on a mulligan to 5 now. This is unfortunate.
All right, now I'm starting to get worried.
Yeah, that being said though, MB could just have the nuts here. So
And we'll have to see.
yeah. I agree with you. Even then, with the Sapphire medallions, Spellseeker's 2 mana or less anyway. So I think it's just a concession to the way that the deck is configured with the Sapphire medallions out. I just think that the Spellseeker is a completely fine addition.
It
So
also
and
shouldn't
it
be
also
underrated
blocks.
that just being able exactly being a body that's able to chump a little bit of damage versus aggressive matchups is relevant as well. That
Yeah.
should not be understated.
Well, because even then you could just be like, okay, I'm gonna Spellseeker to block this thing, and then I'm also going to go grab a High Tide to go off next turn. Seems pretty good. It looks a little bit budget. Like time spirals are not budget by any means. It's almost $1,000 just for the 4 time spirals right there. But yeah, so we're just gonna get Island into Ponder. So we're gonna start sculpting here. Yeah, time spiral and force of will are 80% of the value of your high tide deck.
Our table spotter saying ponder storm one, just so just so we're very clear.
Yeah.
So what kind of start are we hoping for or from for MB? Are we just hoping
if
the turn one either painter or the turn one grindstone right away?
Yeah, so if I'm in MB's spot, I would 100% be wanting a Pyroblast heavy hand or a hand that is able to basically go turn 1 painter into turn 2 grindstone kill you. Yeah, that is true there, Ymir Olsen, is that yeah, yeah, you can snap your own spell seekers, which is really good.
Oh,
Like,
I
oh
didn't
my
think of that.
goodness. Because you can actually go if you have a like 8 mana pool, you can just go spell seeker, grab a snap, snap the spell seeker back, untap the 2 islands, spell seeker, high tide, and then float more mana.
Okay, I really like that tech now. Now I've completely bought in.
Yeah, that's so good.
Seeing
So we're just
Tarn.
gonna get Tarn Pass. So we're gonna get Flooded Strand and then Floating One. So
Storm
we're
count
gonna
one.
ponder again.
I see you a Panny Am. Storm count one.
Yep.
Thank you, Beyond Sadistic. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Perfect. Oh, apparently they're discussing the painter variants that there are, and yeah, he's MB's been I've been talking about a show and tell variant that basically goes Iona into play, and then you play painter on whatever color you named with Iona, which is super hilarious hard lock, although the deck is not super fantastic, not gonna lie.
Sometimes
But
we do things for the memes, you know what I mean? The
exactly.
show and tell Iona, that's one of the things is for the memes.
Exactly. I 100% agree.
Seeing
So we're
end of
gonna
turn fetch and a
brainstorm.
brainstorm.
Yeah, and then okay, so just end of turn fetch as well. I guess this is a time saver.
We appreciate it, players. We appreciate it.
I'm not gonna flush or storm you. I just want an island now. So we're gonna untap, draw. Storm count is 0 again. We're gonna cast a ponder. Thank you so much for that, beyond sadistic.
Beyond Sadistic is really putting in effort for chat right now. This should not be understated.
Yes.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. All right, let's see
Perfect.
what happens with this Bonder.
Yeah. So that being said, I actually so we're gonna get a shuffle here. But even then, I actually don't mind just passing with this volcanic island up if you don't have anything else to do, just because it represents Pyroblast.
You need to threaten it at this point.
Exactly. And the other thing too, is that you need as many mana sources as you can that are red, because that you want to be able to, when the time spirals are going off, because the MB is going to wheel as well. MB will be able to draw all the Force of Wills and also the times or and the Pyroblasts over again. JT Parr Jr., thank you very much for the follow. Much appreciated. So we're just gonna get a pass back with the volcanic island untapped.
I like this.
Yeah, fetch land. Penny M, thank you for the follow.
Thank you, thank you.
So we're gonna get a sapphire medallion here, which I actually don't mind at all. And then pass
Pass it back.
back.
So Bit is actually threatening comboing off on the next turn from MB's point of view.
Yeah. I actually really like the city here. So here's a grindstone. Interesting. So if MB follows up with a painter here, I really like the sequencing. And the reason why is because you don't want to play painter. If you're going to name blue, you don't want to play painter until
You're not going to be casting any more spells.
yeah, yeah, basically, because if you cast the painter, then cast the grindstone, they could have had a force of will and no blue card, and now all of a sudden they're blue, they're all their lands are blue, and then they can pitch to counter the grindstone, and now they stifled your combo, which is no good. So it looks like it's just grindstone pass back, which actually I don't mind that even still, but it also depends on what exactly is in hand here, because Bit's gonna need ideally another land to go off here. So high tide. So we are going.
Here we go. I'm going to check real quick to see what MB's cards in hand are right now, or what
Yeah.
number they are. MB has 4 cards in hand at the moment.
Yeah. So we're gonna tap for 6 here. Pay 5, cast time spiral.
Pyroblast, we spend it here.
Yeah, if you have a pyroblast, now is when you want to do it. Ooh.
Third Cola
Ooh.
High Tide. All right, this is what we were talking about.
Yep. This is good. Surgical extraction on high tide. Response high tide again? I do like this a lot.
I mean, bit is forced into it at this point.
Yeah,
If
well,
it's
it just means
resolving,
that Bit's gonna have to try and go off now without any of this other stuff going on. So there you go. So there's Brain Freeze and Island in hand. And not only that, but the real ouch here would be if MB can follow up with a Pyroblast on this time spiral. That would be so brutal. And yeah, that is actually a good point in Penny M. Is that yeah, MB can actually hard cast the Force of Will right now. That Volcanic Island taps for 3 mana.
oh, that's a very good point.
Yeah,
Of note, we might have missed it. I don't believe I saw the 3 mana force in there.
Force of Negation. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of it. Oh, are we actually going to see it? Are we going to see it? Oh gosh. Yes. Oh my goodness. This
Pyroblast.
is so bad. This is so bad if you're bit. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so that's going to counter the time spiral. Oh my goodness. Wow.
And that's the turn.
Yeah, and then before the mana pool empties, I imagine we're going to activate. Oh, we're going to intuition. Oh no.
Oh, this is it. This is it.
And we know that the shields are down from Bit. So Bit's actually just going to scoop it up here, it looks like. Oh,
I sup
wow.
I suppose it wasn't necessarily done that turn because MB needed a land or another mana source as well, but
At the same
whoa, what a
time, though,
great way
if
for the
you're
match
in,
to end.
yeah, if you're in Bit's spot, I 100% actually don't think it really matters there because the painter's going to come down when you can't stop it. And then if you don't draw exactly a snap, you're dead anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
So anyway, that was very, very well played by MB and Bit, both all three of those games. That was, I agree, Cosmic Coil. That was awesome. We will be back next round for round 3. Hope to see you all there. Hang tight, and we will be back shortly. Thanks for coming and hanging out today.
See you in a bit, y'all.